Hey there, folks. This is Andre, the Game Idea Guy, and got a slightly interesting subject to talk about. And I think it's also because a bunch of other people have noticed this happening quite a bit, and that's and I'm not going to specifically make it about villains because it's happened with good characters too. But there's this thing of characters in fighting games specifically having been decided dead for a portion of the story, and then just miraculously out of nowhere they come back, and sometimes it's explained, sometimes it's not. It's not always the best explanation. And it's just like, okay, like you're supposed to be a goner, like gone, like why are we bringing you back? And even if it's a character I like, it's like, but why are you back? Like, I get that people like the character, but when a definitive point has been reached or a definitive placement has been found for their existence in the timeline of the game, why are they returning? Some it's understandable because of their capabilities. Others it's just like, no, not at all. So I'm going to talk about that a little bit. Now, the first one I got to talk about, and this is a character that is close to my heart because of Street Fighter Alpha, Charlie. My boy Charlie should not be making any returns in any way, shape, or form in the official timeline of Street Fighter at all, ever again. I don't even like what they did with him in Street Fighter 5, to be honest. Because then it just diluted the fact that he even died in the first place. But it's just one of those things where even with the early alpha games, they just kept toying with the idea of him being dead, but never really made him dead officially. Or at least as far as Alpha 3, it looked like he was dead. Alpha 2, which replaces the first Alpha, both of those games showed what looked like him perishing in a fight against Bison. Alpha 3 gives you, again, a similar situation. So I would assume that, yeah, he was gone, because no word was heard of him after that, other than Guile basically making references to him in his bid to go take down Bison. And I was fine with that. Street Fighter 5, they bring him back, and I get it that he has a decaying body and he's being held together. Like, but at that point, why did you even bring him back? Like, it felt like it did more to disrespect the character than it did to enhance the character. Like, he was already, and technically with Street Fighter 5, they said he was basically already dead, but somebody brought him back. Why did he need to come back? Because Bison still existed? Because they went backwards in the timeline instead of forward at that point? It didn't make any sense. It did not make any sense to do it. He should have stayed dead. It kind of pulls away from Guile's motivation. On top of the fact that, like, hey, he was gone forever. Nobody knew anything about him. Now, technically, Street Fighter 4, I guess if you talk about Abel's story, it technically hinted at Charlie being alive. But it's still at the same time, they could have created a new character that knew the same style of fighting as Chile and Garlic. Guile and Charlie. I'm just gonna leave that in there. I'm not even gonna stop and re-record. I'm gonna leave that one in there. Oh man, early morning recording. But yeah, Guile and Charlie there could have been anyone else that learned a fighting style similar to theirs. I mean, take for example, Remy is in Street Fighter 3 and has very similar moves to Guile and Charlie. They're not exactly the same, but they're still similar enough. So there could have been another person out there that had that fighting style. So why did it have to be Charlie? It didn't. Because you've already created the lore that someone else has a similar moveset to Guile and Charlie with Remy in Street Fighter 3. What they should have done is create the person that taught Remy that fighting style. And say that was the person that Abel was, I think Abel was being taken care of by. Then you'd have a connection to Remy, one that would make sense. But they didn't do that. On to the next person, Gouken, and this one is egregious to me. This one is completely egregious to me. That it was confirmed in the first Street Fighter Alpha game that Gouken was dead. He was a goner. He was killed in a fight. He was done for, donezo, nothing left of him. He was dead. That was it. And as the story got fleshed out, he stayed dead. But Street Fighter 4 rolls around and we're bringing Gouken back, putting him in the game to say he put himself into a coma for all of those years and finally woke up. What sustained his body while he was in this coma? What sustained his body when he shut himself down into this coma to avoid being killed by the Raging Demon? The move that Akumi used on him. What? How did his body subsist? Because if we're being real and honest about it, he shouldn't be as big or muscular as he is. If you're going to say that, then his body should be frail and small. He shouldn't be big and bulky like that. And he shouldn't, honestly, even be able to compete in a fight with Akuma. So having Gouken be killed, for him to put himself into some sort of coma, then wake up at an indiscriminate time that we don't exactly know, to reappear out of nowhere, makes no sense. And the way it could have made sense, which they now have the character officially in Street Fighter as of Street Fighter 6, even though he's basically a Ryu clone that you fight through the World Tour mode. That is Shenlong. If they would have given the plot thread that Shenlong was the third practitioner under their style, and that he saw the fight and he interrupted Akuma before he could finish and kill Gouken, but Gouken still used the technique to put himself into a coma, it would make sense that someone could have been there to make sure his body didn't deteriorate. That would have made sense. Then there would have been no Gouken was dead, Gouken's in a coma. And comas can last. You don't necessarily have to have an endpoint for a coma until you want to use it. That's where I'm like, y'all, they screwed up. And it's like continuity editing is horrible, especially for Street Fighter. Continuity editing is horrible. And I could think of ways to fix all these errors, but they keep making it worse every time they put out a new game, because then they leave stuff that makes more errors in the continuity. And it's like, gosh, what are y'all doing? But yeah. Next is M. Bison. Now, as of Street Fighter V, which is well before Street Fighter 6 as far as the timeline goes, Bison's supposed to be dead. Officially dead. And if we're going based on the actual timeline, as far as the Street Fighter 3 series goes, he was definitely dead. Now, Bison, to me, it makes sense that Bison could return. I just don't like the way they did return him. The way they did return him ignores the whole plot thread that Cammy is a clone of him and that she has a piece of his power in her. Now, people have probably heard me talk about this many times before. Well, maybe not many times before, but if you've listened to my videos, you probably heard me talk about this. Especially when I did the podcast with Jay and we went over how Street Fighter 6 could work before Street Fighter 6 actually got announced and came out. And my idea was to have Bison's essence fighting to take over Cammy's body and using her, causing her to have memory blackouts because he was in control of her at certain points. And he was trying to get a new body built for himself to put his power into, his conscious and his mind into, so that he can return. That would have been a great story thread. And you could have had two different versions of Cammy. One that reflects her as her, and then you could have the other version that is controlled by Bison. And I think I called that one Killer B because that was what her code name was originally. It was Killer B. And it would just come full circle to call a Bison controlled Cammy Killer B. That could have been a great plot thread to go into, and then eventually have Bison's body return. Because that's what all the Seth and 12 and Necro were. Their bodies were basically. And I also want to say that Urien and Gil fall under that. They fall in line with that too. Because if I remember correctly, they're all created from the same thing. So their bodies were basically supposed to be replacements for Bison. Just some of the bodies took on their own personalities. I don't think 12 took on its own personality. It was just objective driven. And Seth is like 12, but Seth has a personality. But the thing is, there were so many ways to bring Bison. But there were a multitude of other ways to bring Bison back, other than just make him show up and look like a poor grizzled old man, which would also mean that he's been in the body that was supposedly destroyed. It doesn't feel right. It don't sit right. And again, Street Fighter has horrible continuity issues anyway. At this point, as much as I dislike them, I have to accept them. Especially if I'm a fan of the series and I want to see where it goes. But their continuity isn't all that great. Like it's not great. Now, on to the next one I'm thinking of. And that, surprisingly, would probably be Geese Howard. Because Geese should technically be dead. But he was brought back, I want to say, in King of Fighters 14. And it's not like he doesn't exist. It seems like he's there. I haven't played the game personally. I've seen bits and pieces of his gameplay and stuff like that, which he looks good as a character, but he was brought back when he was supposed to be dead in Fatal Fury. Now, granted, you don't necessarily see his body go splat on the ground, but he's supposed to be dead. The situation he was left in was inescapable. At least that's what was the thought process. There's the chance that he could have survived, but in multiple different scenarios, he's either falling onto pavement. I think in the original Fatal Fury, he fell off the side of a mountain against a spiked, jagged cliff face. It's like y'all can't keep bringing this man back. Like not in like official story-based games. Don't keep doing that. Which is weird that y'all will bring him back like that constantly, but you won't bring back Rugal at all. Why did I say Rugal? Y'all won't bring back Rugal like officially at all, SNK. That bugs me. I mean, I like both characters a lot. But if you're gonna bring back Geese, why can't you bring back Rugal? Even though I know that the power of Orochi technically destroyed his body, he could still return back through that power. If we're gonna give Geese a chance to come back, I want this man to come back. Now I'm thinking about it. Has Krauser officially died in the games? I don't think he did die in the games. I know he's been defeated. I don't think he actually died. That's something to think about. I don't know about that one. I know in the movies and the OVA he died. But that's separate continuity from the games. Because otherwise you'd have to count Tung Fu Ru as dead, and Tung Fu Ru didn't actually die in the game, so let me not get sidetracked. And the one I know everybody's majorly kind of confused on is Heihachi. Because if you played Tekken 7 and you played that story mode, you played him fighting Kazuya, and that fight ends. Bruh had his chest beat in until his heart stopped. Until his heart stopped. Now, I would say it'd be cool if this is a clone of Heihachi, but he has the scarring from that fight. Now I'm thinking about it, it kind of looks similar to Jinpachi. The markings in the middle of his chest. That might be... That's something to think about. But we don't have an explanation just yet, so I don't know if it's going to make sense at all for his return. But I kind of understand why people get a little bit upset, because that was a major moment. That was a major moment for the series, for him to die like that and actually be dead. Granted, Tekken has had a habit of killing characters for them to return, especially when it comes down to the Mishima family. People getting thrown into active volcanoes, being shot up, and everything under the sun, just to come back into the next game in the tournament still fighting like nothing actually happened to him. So for me, this one in particular isn't so bad. It's just confusing, because again, you saw the light basically leave his eyes. His body shut down. He was dead. He was officially dead after that fight with Kazuya. So it's like, how are y'all going to explain this? It's not like Kazuya tossed him somewhere and just walked away like he did often before. He literally beat this man to death with his own hands. So like, how did he get revived? How did he get saved? Especially if no one else was there besides Akuma, and Akuma went to fighting Kazuya. He didn't even worry about Heihachi. His whole objective was to eradicate the family anyway. So it was like, where are we going here? Like, it leaves you wondering why they even killed him in the first place. It really does leave you wondering why he was actually killed in the first place. Because if you kill him and then bring him back the next game, it's almost as if he didn't die. So, like, what was the point of him dying? And it's not like this is like Mortal Kombat, where characters get killed off and killed off and killed off and keep coming back for some reason, because that's part of the game. Same thing with Killer Instinct, like characters keep getting killed off and just coming back. this had a dedicated story plot to killing this man. After explaining that he wasn't the bad guy in the series in the first place, but it had a dedicated plot to killing him off, and that being the payoff, that being the emotional investment, it kind of weakens the fact that it happened. Like it severely weakens the fact that that's what was done. It makes it almost pointless that he died in the first place. Now, I'm wondering if they're going to explain it through the Jinpachi angle, and maybe Heihachi has unlocked some sort of ability after dying. I have no freaking clue. I have no clue whatsoever. I'm kind of wondering what's going to go down, what's going to happen further along, because there wasn't any real given explanation for this, and that to me, that could be a major oversight. Hopefully it's not. Hopefully it's not, and Harada has an explanation primed for Heihachi's return, and it makes sense in some way, shape, or form. But goodness, man, is that getting this plot thread with fighting games is starting to get old. If you kill off a character in story in a big way, let them stay dead. I get that people will get upset that they can't play as their favorite characters in every new iteration. But anything that is story-based, let that character stay gone. Now, if you're doing crossovers and all that, yeah, bring them back for those, obviously. Let them appear in the crossovers. Hell, let them even have a story in the crossovers. But at this point, let them stay dead. Like, let them stay dead in the main focus stuff. Because otherwise, it starts to really sully the point that the characters died fighting for something. It takes away the purpose of the death. Like, everything ain't gotta be DC and Marvel comics where a character dies and then 3-4 months later they come back somehow unexplained. Like, many of them come back without explanations. Some of them do, depending on how major the death is, but others just reappear like they've been there the whole time. Like, so could we not do that so often? Like, it's okay if it's done every once in a while, but this, as far as fighting games in general, this is happening far too much. And I know I haven't touched on everything, because I'm pretty sure there are some other character deaths out there that I have just completely forgot about, but these are the ones that stuck out to me that I can remember offhand. So, come on, like, we can't keep letting everybody get murked and then just reappear. We gotta not let that happen, and especially for Heihachi to get murked and then come back still in Takuma Sakazaki's whole drip and movement. But instead of a Tengu mask, he has what's the character? It's not a. Is it a Keaton mask that he wore? The gold one. How you gonna come out stealing another man's drip, standing on a mountain after? Oh man, that to me means they need to bring Takuma into Tekken as a guest character, because I would want him to have some words with Heihachi after that. He's just like, how you gonna steal my whole get up, bro? But we gonna let that go. But you guys let me know your opinions. I mean, it's not horrible for me. It's just it borders on the line of annoying. It really borders on the line of being more annoying than it is something that's frustrating. But yeah, you guys let me know your opinions. Thank you guys very much for listening, and keep your eyes and ears out for more stuff from me. And until the next time, enjoy your games and peace out, everybody.